Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, the Corvette is behind us and so is the SS. But today what we'll be working on is actually for the Corvette. If you guys have been a really sharp-eyed viewer, you will have noticed there's been a box floating around the shop for like 2, probably almost 3 years. And that box is this bicycle box next to my tractor. So I'm not really a bicyclist, so that's obviously not a bike frame. So let's go ahead, get this thing opened up and show you what we got. This is actually a lot more lightweight than I thought it was. You guys might be wondering, well, what is that? Well, this, guys, is a Corvette ZR1's front subframe. Well, you guys might be wondering, well, why do you have a ZR1 or a Z6 front subframe? Well, that is because this front subframe is actually made out of magnesium. The subframes on the base model, the Grand Sport, the convertible, etc., those all have an aluminum front subframe, and those front subframes weigh about 20 pounds. These magnesium subframes, I think they're like 9 pounds or less, so they're like literally half the weight of the stock aluminum subframe. You guys have probably seen this box in the shop for like the last 2+ years. Well, that's because we never really needed it up until now. And it's actually just because we've kind of just been waiting to actually do this project. I wasn't going to tear the front subframe off the car just to do that. I kind of wanted to wait until we had other parts to throw at it at the same time and kind of do it all in one fell swoop, not doing it in multiple stages. So that's where we're at today. We're finally at a point where we've got enough parts built up to where we can actually get the Corvette off the ground and get the subframe out of the car. However, we are not going to be installing the subframe today because we actually need to fix it. You guys might be wondering, well, why did you buy a broken subframe? I didn't buy a broken subframe. Bought a subframe that has a small crack in it. And this small crack is, if you guys can see it, it's right here. It's about 1 inch long. It's on the outside, and it goes to right here. And since this subframe actually has a very small crack in it, we actually got it for a really good deal. These front subframes go for, and I think I've seen everywhere from like $300 to $1,000 for the front subframe. I only paid $200 for this. The guy had it auctioned. I saw it listed a couple times, and finally, I just made an OBO, or best offer of $200 shipped, and that's what he decided to sell it for. So, we got this at a really good price, and I was like, okay, that's cool. So we've had it. It's been sitting in storage for a long time, and now we're finally going to get it modified, fixed, and put it back on the car. Well, my initial plan was to actually get this subframe repaired at a local welding shop, but as you guys know, a couple months ago, we bought that AHP TIG welder. So now that we have a TIG welder, it's like, well, hell, all I gotta do is buy a little bit of filler rod and we should be good to go. So what I picked up was actually this AZ92A magnesium welding rod, filler rod, and it is 3/32 in size. So I picked up some welding rod. You could use an argon helium mix for the gas. Well, we've already got a full tank of argon, or a majority of a tank of argon to use. We should be able to fix this pretty cheaply. And I think I got these rods off of the internet for like 30 bucks. So that is the one thing about magnesium filler rod. It is very expensive. And I decided not to go buy a pound of it because it was going to be like $150 to $200 for a pound of it. So I just bought 10 pieces, and for a little 1/2 inch crack or 1 inch crack on both sides, I think we're just gonna grind that down, weld it one side, weld the other side, and call it a day. Now, I actually have inspected the rest of the subframe. That was the only documented crack, and that's the only crack that I found. So, we've got the TIG welder, we've got the welding rod, we've got the welding gas. Really, the only thing we need to do is actually go ahead and prepare the crack. And actually what I'm going to do is just kind of bevel the edge, bevel this outer edge, and bevel it down here, just that we have something to weld to. The thing with magnesium is you don't really see a lot of people welding 2 pieces of magnesium together. You more or less see people have a broken case or broken subframe like this thing. You weld it and then you kind of grind it down. That's kind of what what I've seen on actually magnesium repairs that I've seen on the internet. So now, one warning, magnesium is highly flammable, especially the chips, any grinding, anything like that. So what I'm going to be doing today is actually using our 50 feet of air hose. And I'm actually going to be grinding on this outside. So actually by using air power tools, we should eliminate any risk of, sudden combustion with electrical spark getting thrown from, a die grinder or whatnot. So, all right guys, we have fully beveled the edge on the inside of the subframe. And the same thing kind of with the outer edge right here. Then on the very bottom, we did the same thing. This wasn't too bad to grind down. I pretty much just used my air power tools over there. I used a cutting wheel to kind of bevel the edge of the crack, and then I just end up using like a little polishing wheel and kind of just clean up the magnesium subframe, and we're pretty good to go. I think the outside I did a better job on just because I was able to get full access with my tools. Now on the inside here, I did end up having to use a Dremel for a little bit of it, like just kind of like this back corner right here. And the reason I ended up having to use a Dremel was because my grinding and cutting discs simply were not small enough to get down into that crack and get that thing cleaned out. So as you guys can see, we should have a side profile shot. It's pretty beveled on top, pretty beveled on bottom. We're gonna weld all the way around it and go from there. But before we start welding, I'm actually gonna clean this up with acetone as well as a stainless steel brush that I've only used on aluminum and non-ferrous metals, so aluminum, magnesium, that'll be fine. We'll brush this off, clean it up, and get welding at it. All right guys, apologize for the noise. There's the mower outside and the welder's on, but as you guys can see, I have TIG welded the top. I know it looks like crap. We will clean this up with a grinder, but I just wanted to get a first pass on it, test it, and the outer edge filled up really nice, and the bead that we have going down looks pretty good. So we're still going to grind down the top a little bit and clean it off, just make it look a little bit better. But now let's go ahead and do the bottom side. This should be the easy side because it's just one angle and there's not a curve in it or anything. It's just one straight shot. Alright, so this is kind of hard to see, but the second half of that weld came out actually pretty well. It went straight down the line, and we finished onto the outer piece. I think I might try to go back to the very top because I actually was too far left of the crack, but this, this bottom piece turned out really well. So let's clean up the top a little bit and we'll get back into it. Alright guys, we finally finished welding up on this little front subframe, the magnesium ZR1 subframe. I will be the first to admit, these welds look like crap, but like I said, we're going to clean these up. And I kind of did a double pass. I did a pass on the left, I did a pass on the right, and I kind of just melted them together, if that makes sense. But I mean, as you guys can see, we fill that crack in, and it's not making any more noise like this was loose. So we definitely have some, metal adhesion between the two cracked pieces, and we should be good. So like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and clean this up. All right guys, here is the cleaned up weld on the top and the bottom. And if you guys will remember, we had this thing, the very outer edge you know, to where it was paper thin. So we've definitely filled in material here. And like I was pointing out earlier, if you knock on it, it sounds solid again. So I think we're good. And I honestly probably took way too much time trying to clean up these edges and whatnot. But, you know, it's under the car. You're never going to see it. And it should be fine. And kind of actually adding material here, we've kind of added another triangulation point. So we've kind of maybe strengthened this whole area so that this crack doesn't happen again. Because basically, you know, we've got a third angle. You know, we got the piece going this way, but now we have the piece going up that way on top and bottom. I do want to point out that we did do the cleanup outside. You know, I used compressed air, I used my air power tools. Did use a Dremel a little bit again, but like I said earlier, you know, make sure you clean everything off, blow everything off the air every couple of minutes, and that way you don't have to worry about any kind of spontaneous combustion happening with the magnesium. Now, I actually wasn't planning on welding this today, but I have the free time, and it's not super, super hot. I mean, it is 90-some degrees outside, but, you know, I just went with the flow, and we got the project done. Was actually going to do more research on how to TIG weld magnesium, but honestly, guys, with the little practice that I've had with aluminum, I don't think this really welded any different. I actually thought this was a little bit easier to weld than aluminum. I don't know why, but it seemed like, you know, I was going through heating up my little puddle, then I would just dab and move, and it kind of just went up the piece. So kind of maybe it's just me getting more practice TIG welding, and maybe if I was doing aluminum, I'd have that same experience, but this seemed to weld really easily, and I was able to get a pretty decent bead. Not the best, but that's all right. And like I pointed out, we obviously have built this way back up with material. Hell, it's probably like an 1/8 inch thick. This is probably, yeah, this is probably a 1/2 inch thick. So it should be theoretically stronger than the way it was. So I think we're gonna be good. Other than that, my machine settings were pretty simple. I had the main amp at about, I started at 90, it turned up to 100 just because it seemed to work a little bit better. Starting amp is at 50, pulse frequencies at 10, 45% pulse amps, and we also had AC frequency at like 65, and the balance was down to like 30%. So those are actually pretty much the same settings that I use for aluminum, and depending on thickness, it seems to work. If it's real thin, it's too hot, so you gotta turn the amperage down, but if it's thick, I may have actually welded that cold, but I don't know. We're good for this project. Now, I was intending to actually start the install of this project today, but we actually have a couple events coming up for the Corvette, so we're gonna come back to this, and that's gonna be it for today's video. So next video, you guys will see, you'll see the subframe be installed, you'll see the other suspension stuff that we're gonna do, and we'll go from there. So if you guys wanna see those upcoming suspension projects, make sure you hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and also make sure you turn on your bell notifications. That way you guys know when I upload new content. So that's gonna be it. I'll try to have a link down to the TIG wire. I should be able to find that, and some of the grinding stuff, and check out all those links, and check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Thanks, guys. Have a great one.